Hi, in this video, I'll be showing the process of modeling a Christmas ornament. I previously posted a shorts video on this topic. When I was filming the shorts video, I simultaneously recorded the screen, but the data was corrupted, so I recorded it again for this video. Please note that the version of Nomad Sculpt is different, and some parts of the workflow are also different. I hope you can understand this. The structure is very simple and consists of 5 objects. I'll be creating them in order, so I hope this will be helpful for you. First, let's create the top object. Add a cylinder. Adjust the topology to make it easier to deform. Set division Y to 2. Validate. Switch to cell mask. Uncheck front-facing vertex only. Clear the mask. Use trim to remove the bottom face. Switch to trim. Set it to none. The bottom face has been successfully removed. Switch to face group. In the later steps, I'll apply subdivision and remeshing. At this stage, since there are only a few face groups, the shape can change unintentionally. So, I add a new face group on the side to make it easier for subdivision and remeshing to recognize the shape. If the pen is lifted, a new face group is created, so the red color is long pressed to copy it. Use quad remesher to clean up the mesh. We'll set a value higher than the current vertex count. To create fine grooves later, I'll use subdivide in advance. Before that, I briefly explained the newly added sharp border. This screen was recorded separately, so the version is different. I prepared a simple cylinder for this explanation. First, to make things easier to understand, we'll display the face group of the cylinder. To display face group, either switch the tool or enable face group from the shading window. The face group of the cylinder is divided into 3 face groups. the top face, the bottom face, and the side surface. First, this is what it looks like when you subdivide without selecting anything. The entire mesh, including the corners, is subdivided and smooth. Next, let's see what happens when sharp border is selected. It recognizes the face group, keeping the border edges sharp while smoothing only the surfaces. When using sharp border, you need to adjust the face group in advance, but it's a very useful feature, so I recommend giving it a try. Back to the main scene. This time, to preserve the shape as much as possible, I'll subdivide using sharp border, but feel free to proceed however you like. Create grooves using trim. Continue using trim to cut in a zigzag pattern. Adjust the angle to avoid interfering with the object in the back. Check to make sure the shape hasn't deformed. I didn't notice it at this time, but part of the mesh was broken. Since it may be fixed by the remeshing done later, I think it's fine to continue as long as there are no major issues. Reset the mesh using quad remesher. The shape is a bit complex, and using various settings caused it to deform, so only the minimum settings are applied. Remesh with roughly the same vertex count. The shape has slightly changed, but I'll continue as it is. Create a mask to add thickness. Invert the mask. Setting it to minus adds thickness inward, so the corners won't be rounded. Adjust as desired. Extract. The original object remains, so delete or hide it. This completes the object. Although it's a small object, the mesh ended up a bit too dense, so you might want to adjust it a little more with remeshing or similar tools. Next, create the main object. Add a UV sphere at the center of the world. To add an object at the center of the world, add it without selecting anything. Alternatively, even if an object is selected, unchecking the option adds the new object at the center of the world. Add a UV sphere. The object is added at the center of the world. Use this sphere as a reference, and since stripes will be created later, keep the size and position of this sphere unchanged. Adjust the size and position of the previously created object. Add a cylinder. Combine the two objects using Boolean. With both objects selected and visible, tap Boolean. Now combined into a single object. Reset the mesh using Quad Remesher. Set the vertex count slightly higher. It's not very clean, but the shape hasn't deformed, so proceed as it is. Add smoothness to the corners. Switch to smooth. Switch to lock plus radius. Other settings are as described above. Place the pen on top of the object to start, then move it outward to smooth the corners. Next, create this object. Since a torus changes its diameter when stretched vertically, I'll use a tube instead. Switch to tube. Since it's a small object, I keep the topology values as low as possible. For the final step, we'll create the stripe pattern. To briefly explain the steps we'll take this time, we'll use two alpha images with seamless patterns of different line widths. We'll create masks from each image and make two types of stripe objects with different widths. Varying the thickness of the two objects creates this kind of stripe pattern when stacked. If you zoom in, you'll be able to see that the two objects are overlapping. Now let's get started. Add a UV sphere. Since it's hard to see, I'll use Solo to hide the other objects. A new UV sphere has been added in the exact same position as the UV sphere we added earlier. We'll apply the image for the stripe pattern onto this UV sphere. Validate. Because we're creating a mask from the image, we subdivide the mesh with Subdivide to prevent the mask from becoming rough. The more you use Subdivide, the cleaner the pattern becomes, but it also increases the file size. So we'll stop here for now. We add the first image, which we briefly introduced earlier, to opacity. An image has been added. Here are the details of the first image. It was created using Adobe Illustrator, and we've shown how to make it in the previous video, so be sure to check that out as well. Adjust its size and angle. We adjust the areas where the pattern is misaligned. If you enter a value in rotation, you can't adjust it in exact whole numbers, so I position it roughly by eye. We duplicate the UV sphere using Clone to prepare it for the second image. I'm replacing it with the second image. The image has been changed, but it is still the first image. It might be an app glitch, but toggling Solo off and on fixes it. The second image is now displaying correctly. Here are the details of the second image. I've intentionally changed the line widths from the first image, and I've deliberately offset the patterns so they shift when layered. I want to keep the position as it is, so I'll keep the values the same as in the first image. I renamed it for clarity. We convert from the pattern 1 image into a mask. Open the Reproject Vertex settings. Check only Opacity Arrow Mask. Convert it into a mask. A mask has been created from the pattern 1 image. Delete the image since it's no longer needed. We delete the mask because densely packed areas of the mesh can collapse when adding thickness. The top part will be hidden by the object, so removing the mask isn't strictly necessary. But to keep the object as clean as possible, I plan to remove the masks on the fine details at the top and bottom. Switch to Cell Mask. Change the settings. The mask on the opposite side has also been deleted. Create a mask for pattern 2 using the same steps. Finally, we add thickness based on the masks, starting with pattern 2. Extract. The original object remains, so we hide or delete it. Change the color temporarily. Next, we add thickness to pattern 1 as well. I'll increase the values compared to pattern 2.